Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. My name is Joel Goldberg, and a big thanks to my friends at Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you, and appreciate all of their support throughout this pandemic and beyond. I've mentioned it before. Baseball is starting. Finally, baseball starting tomorrow. We had our final preseason game yesterday. These are three games that came together at the last minute. I got to tell everybody, and this will actually lead a little bit into my guest in this episode too, that we're doing things in television yesterday, and then this is now my 13th year of Royals baseball, that we've never done before. And this is true of all the announcers around baseball. So we actually called a game yesterday from Kauffman Stadium, and the Royals weren't even in town. It was weird. It was surreal. But that's where we'll be working. So we'll be working in the same spot, home and road games, and we had all the monitors set up, and we're calling the game, and they're trying to limit everyone's exposure. And I mean, shoot, by the time I got off with yesterday's show, a little bit after that, I saw the news that one of the Royal Star players once again was diagnosed and tested positive, and so he's in quarantine. Hopefully he'll be back in a couple of weeks. So we're adjusting, and we're figuring out this new world. I've said it a few times if you've watched the show, and this is show number 89. How in the world did this thing crank out 89 episodes Monday through Friday since the beginning of the pandemic? I was locked up in a walk-in closet doing this show, which was a great quiet place to do the show, but a little bit claustrophobic. And so my good friends over at Kansas City Audio Visual, KCAV.com, came in and said, you know what? We think that we can help you create a little studio. And I thought, well, I've got the spare bedroom. I don't know how much my wife's going to like us using the spare bedroom. And then we both decided, who's visiting us right now? So at some point, when we have guests, we'll have to figure out where to put the bed back, or they could sleep in the KCAV studios. I don't know. Anyway, appreciate the support for them, and they do much bigger things than a little podcast like this, major offices and all of that type of stuff. So with all of that said, baseball's back tomorrow. The show is back. Actually, my guest tomorrow is Rex Hudler, my broadcast partner. I just thought start of the season. He's like an espresso. I've never called him that before, but just instant energy. People say all the time, is he really like? Yes, he's really like that. Another person that I believe has a lot of energy, and someone that I'm just getting to know, but in terms of branding, you don't even have to ride bikes, although she might convince me to do that. You don't have to have a Harley, but Gail Worth is a name that everybody knows in Kansas City and outside of Kansas City too. I mean, it's the beauty of branding. It's the beauty of being associated with an iconic brand. And as a guy that lived in Wisconsin for a lot of years, I'm very familiar with the Harley Davidson brand. And so Gail Worth, longtime owner of Gail's Harley Davidson, joins me right now, and I'm going to bring in Gail. And a little bit of technical difficulties. Bear with us. And so we've got the phone going. But like I said, that's the world today. So
right.
Gail will hear me through the phone, then you can put that down. We'll work through it. I'm just happy to have you on. So first and foremost, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. It's a beautiful day. Started out nice and cool. Hopefully it stays a little cooler than 100. It's awesome.
God, 100's not exactly good riding weather, is it?
Okay, so that's crazy. I have a lot of friends that will not ride when it's 100 degrees, but for me, it can't get too hot. I love it. It's an escape. It's so fabulous to ride my motorcycle to work every morning because it's kind of like a mini vacation. And then I go to work and get all my stuff behind me, get on my bike, and I ride home. And so I get another vacation. So it's like 2 mini vacations a day. I love it.
Well, how amazing is it that you get to have a vacation every day?
I know, it's fabulous. And so can you, Joel. Come by and see me, and I'll show you how.
Yeah. I hope my wife's not watching, but no, I think it'd be a lot of fun, actually. And of course, I suppose you just have to decide on a given day which bike you want to ride.
Well, okay, so I am a stereotypical Harley owner, and I have my favorite bike. I get a bike. I pick one out like every 3 years. I'll pick one out, and it is my motorcycle for the next 3 years. So I ride a Road Glide right now, a CVO Road Glide that is amazing. I love it. I've ridden it all over the country, not all over the country, the north and south of here. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, you can ride it up to Sturgis. I know you told me you were doing that in
Yes,
in
2 weeks.
So that's obviously, can we call that a pilgrimage? I don't know. I mean, that's
Yeah,
certainly
man.
something that everybody raves about.
It really is fantastic. It's nice because it's so relaxing, and I get to be away from work, and yet I'm just engulfed in motorcycles without having to work it. It's fantastic. It's so wonderful. I got to tell you, Joel, it's one of those things. Harley Davidson has this. Well, they used to have this shirt that said, "If I have to explain, you wouldn't understand," and that is how it is. You know, I just like there's something about it that is just. It's like trying to explain love. You can't explain it. It's just fantastic.
Was this, and I know I did a lot of reading, and I have a researcher too who, by the way, it was funny, we'll get to this later. I think the section that he fills out about, other interests, and it was like too many to name, and or causes and all that, and then he sent me a link, and it was like, there's not enough room on the form to fill that out, so we'll get to all of your, philanthropic endeavors and all of that in a moment, but to me, and I know that you found this love of bikes at a young age, but if you're going to call it falling in love, which I get,
Yes.
I get that element of that passion and that that thing that you're every day. When did you fall in love?
Really, I enjoyed it as a kid, but I really didn't fall in love with it until I was in my mid-20s. And I really got to know, I started really getting to know the people that are part of the motorcycle community and the executives at the motor company, and just fell in love with it. I just, it's in the motorcycle itself, when you truly ride it, and I hate to say with your eyes closed, because you can't ride it with your eyes closed. Don't do that. But if you can ride it and just feel it, just don't think about anything around you, just feel it and feel what you're doing, and you're riding down the road. When you get to that point, it's you love it. You love it. And so it was in my mid-20s before I got to that point, and it's gotten deeper ever since.
Well, one of the things that I'm interested too in terms of it taking over your life, and you mentioned this before too, like when you go up to a Sturgis or somewhere like that, and by the way, and I mentioned before, we're dealing with a little bit of audio, but everybody's going to hear everything fine. When you're talking, if you want to put that hand down, you don't need to hear me. So I know that's a little counterintuitive because it's like a phone conversation, but
I know, it's hard.
I know, if you need to give that arm a rest, I feel like I can empathize, because I feel like this is what happens when I'm in before pandemic, when you're in a press conference with like a baseball manager and you're holding out the microphone and it's going really long, and after like 7 minutes you're like, my arm's not as strong as I thought it was.
Right.
So when you're talking, if you want to put it down, we'll roll with it. But what I wanted to ask was that, as much as this is a love of yours, I'm guessing, and knowing with the success you've had as a businesswoman for many years, and a businesswoman with a lot of clout and a lot of accolades and incredible success, are you able to separate? Like for me, I grew up loving sports. It was my dream to talk about them, and I do now. And I love them just as much, but I see them differently because I'm in the business. And so, I have this great but also awful ability to flip a switch off or on and say, oh, so, that play didn't work out, or that game didn't work out. Okay, that's just business. So I lose some of that, that innocence of just being a pure fan. Can you separate those two, of being just the Harley chick, as it says on the name there, versus the businesswoman and the business owner?
Yes. I think I can do a pretty good job of that. I can, and so, like you, I lose some of that innocence of just loving the sport and not caring about anything else except the motorcycle. But at the same time, it's really cool to know the inside of all the OEMs. It's just, I don't know. I can separate them, but yet it's me. It's my whole life is motorcycles, and I just can't imagine what I would ever do without a motorcycle in my life.
Truly is the love. It's the love.
It is.
It's your love.
Right. It really is. And when I go on vacation, I want to have it with me. And when, like, I'm going out of town with my fiance tomorrow, and we're riding our motorcycles in 100-degree weather to go to the lake. And so, but it's going to be fun. We're going to love it. It's just, I just love it. Everything about it. Even though I work it every day, it's pretty neat.
I assume it's sort of like, when someone asks, you did tell me your favorite bike for the moment, but it's kind of like asking somebody who their favorite, who's your favorite, which one's your favorite kid? Well, I love them all. It's right.
Right.
It's family.
Right. In fact, you're right. Right now, truly, I have 3 bikes that I ride a lot. My favorite one, the one I ride every single day, is my Road Glide. But I also ride a Fat Boy that is, it's so cool and it's so pretty. It's so cool. But a 48 Sportster, which is, it's a 1200 Sportster, and it is Sportsters are probably my favorite of all bikes, period, just because the power to weight ratio is insane, and so they can take off like a lightning bolt, and they're very agile around corners. I love them.
Well, and I would imagine too that sometimes it could just be a mood thing, right? Or sometimes
Yes.
it's practicality, but sometimes it's hey, I'm in the mood for this bike right now.
Yes, in fact, you're right. It's like, trying to decide between driving your Tahoe or your Corvette. They're completely different.
No, I get it, and I'll reiterate again that some of the guys that I work with, they'll as long as there's not rain in the forecast, they're riding sometimes from Johnson County over to the stadium, or another guy's Waldo to the stadium. Another guy I think is up north, and there's also a fraternity obviously to that too. Hey, I love this. My most loyal viewer / listener is Kiana Sinks, and she just comments in Queen's Ride, and so
Yay, Kiana!
I love that one. I want to talk about that. I mean, you are an incredibly successful businesswoman. You have been since starting your company, and I believe 1998 is when you, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, when
99,
you opened up,
yep.
or 99, okay. So you just had your 20-year anniversary last year. I know this because I got married the same year that you opened your business. So we both had
very cool.
20-year anniversaries in 2019, but I'm not assuming, I know you are a highly successful woman in a man's world. Not that you're the only woman in the world of Harley Davidson, but people think that gruff and tough man and all that type of stuff, and I know it's not all that way. But I'm sure it's evolved to the point where everyone around the country, or maybe even the world for that matter, they know Gail Worth in the Harley community, and
Yes.
you have established yourself. How long did it take to gain that credibility? If this is a man's world, and I'm sure one that is slanted towards men being favorable, I'm guessing you don't have those same challenges now. Maybe you have some, I don't know. What were the challenges along the way, and how has that changed?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I bought the dealership 20 years ago, and at that time I was pretty well known in the motorcycle world, which is why I named it Gails. The name, Gail, came before the name of the dealership, and I spent several years really getting involved and ingrained in Kansas City and in the motorcycle community. And so it took 5 or 6 years of nothing but, connecting with people, networking nonstop all the time. And then I was able to name my dealership after me, and it meant something. Then all it did was just catapult me. It's just been quite a ride, and it's been weird being at times being a woman in a man's world, but really mainly um, gosh, at the very beginning, when people were questioning my abilities, questioning who does she think she is? She's just some stupid punk girl. Because I was young, and at that time I looked young. Now I think I finally got mature, but like, sometimes you be careful what you wish for because it will show up one day. But anyway, at that time I looked super young, and so people would question me nonstop. But I knew in my heart, I knew I could make it work, and I believe that if you truly know it down deep inside, and you follow your gut, which is God saying you can do this, and you study it, man, you've got to know your stuff, then it doesn't matter. The wonderful thing about being a woman in a man's world is I can ask the men for help, and they are 90% of the time they are there. Men are chivalrous and they want to help. And so sometimes I kind of feel bad for the men in the motorcycle world because they feel a little uncomfortable asking each other for help sometimes because men can do it themselves. Women, we can go and ask a man for help, and men are fabulous about offering help. No matter if I'm asking business advice or motorcycle advice, men are always there. And so I just don't think that there's really much of a downside of being a woman in this world.
Well, we like to fix stuff, and we
Yes.
we certainly don't like to pull over and ask for directions. That
I know.
is for sure.
Exactly.
But you know what, Gail, there are a couple of things that you just talked about. One of the things I love about these conversations and why I don't script anything out, I have ideas of where I want to go, is to just let the conversation evolve as it does. And this is coming from someone that as I think I mentioned at the top, I've never met you before, but very, very familiar with your brand and your name, which is a testament to branding and who you are beyond just Harley. And there are a couple of things that stand out to me here. One is the networking aspect of putting yourself in a position to be successful. So I do want to talk more about that. But the other side is, and I had this conversation with someone the other day, and I would recommend it to everyone, especially the men. There's no weakness in asking for help. Like I'm not trying to start a self-help group here, but I found, I started my business 3.5 years ago, corporate speaking, and then the podcasting, and working on a book now, and on and on and on. And I don't know what I don't know. Why wouldn't I want to get better? And if someone's going to view me as being weak, okay. But you know what usually happens is people are really grateful or appreciative that I would seek out their advice, that there's an empowerment to saying, hey, I respect your knowledge. How can you help me with this? So I don't know why more men aren't wired that way. Some are.
I agree.
But it just seems to me like, if unless you think you have it all figured out, and none of us do, why wouldn't you ask? How much early on with that networking was just about making connections and letting people know who you were? How much was learning with each of those interactions? Because it sounds like the networking really put you in a spot to get this brand to where it needed to go from the beginning, to be able to use the name Gail and to be able to build this empire, so to speak.
Well, I knew that in order to set myself apart from all the rest, then I had to make a huge impression on Kansas City. And so I had to be out there all the time. And so I started networking and connecting. But I didn't go with the intent of finding people that I can ask advice. That happened along the way. It just happened organically. And I figured out that, wow, the more people I get to know, the more insanely fabulous people I get to know, and here's the deal. Some people along the way and still today didn't think that they were fabulous. They thought that they were just getting by and they were doing their thing, and it's crazy the things I've learned from people who just didn't think that they were something, but they were really something to me.
Well, and I also would think, actually, I got to pop this up because you'll love this. It's one more comment here from Kiana, who says, I've never met Gail, but she is a boss inspiration. She's broken so many stereotypes about women in a man's world in ownership and respect in women dynamics, and so that
Yeah, I love
no, she's listen. I, I've met her in the last couple of months, and she is she's incredible. She's an incredible mid-20s. She could be a young, a young Gail. Who knows? With all that kind of passion. I mean, the way that she is the way you're describing yourself back then. Firecracker type, and and all in. And so, yeah, I'm giving her a little bit of love. It's been one of the great parts of this pandemic is just some of the people that I've had the chance to meet that I wouldn't get that opportunity to do otherwise.
Oh, I bet. And then, by the way, I don't want to interrupt you, but Kiana, I want to meet you. So reach out to me. I'm Gail Harley chick on Facebook, if nothing else.
Okay. Well, and I'll help. I'll help.
Thank you, Joel. I appreciate that.
That's part of the whole networking thing.
Exactly. It doesn't.
It never stops. I want to ask you about your energy, because you're a high energy woman. I can read people pretty well immediately. I mean, I know you're comfortable with this type of setting in the interviews. Your face, your name, your personality's been out there a long time. But I was mentioning at the top of the show that Rex Hudler is coming on tomorrow, our analyst for baseball, and he and Salvador Perez are two of the most energetic people I've ever met. There's an infectiousness to this, and I always say that positive energy doesn't have to be the loudest person in the room. Sometimes it is with Rex, but you could have positive energy and not have it be a volume thing. But
absolutely.
Were you always a high energy person?
Yes. This is what God gave me, and what I did was I took that gift and I never have let go of it, because I truly believe that everybody is given the gift, I think that everybody is born positive. What you turn it into, you may not be born energetic, but you're born positive. And what you turn it into is up to you. And so I have always believed in looking for the greatness in everything that happens to me. I've had a lot of bad things happen, but there's always good stuff that comes out of it. In fact, every single time something bad has happened, something good has come around the corner. So, you just look at it that way, and that's what happens. And if you don't look at it that way, if you think, oh no, I'm going to go bankrupt and the world is going to end, it's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. If you think yourself sick, you're going to be sick. But if you think it's fabulous, something good is going to happen out of this, something good is going to happen. And so I think that it's a focus that you have to have, a person has to have.
It's a mindset, and look, as well as I do, there are those that are the glass half full, those that are the glass half empty. It's tough to change who you are, but I can't operate in that glass is half empty. So if it's, I might have had a couple of days where the glass was close to half empty when this pandemic started, and I realized that I wasn't going back to work for baseball, and the panic, some of that was just the financial side of things. Some of that was, oh my gosh, what do I do? Thank goodness on my end that I'd started this business 3.5 years ago, and I had other avenues, and suddenly it became, and this is advice, I know it's what you're saying too, to anyone that's watching. Okay, times are down right now, and by the way, almost everyone is down in some form or another. I mean, I've said it over and over again. It could be the billionaire owner that is going to be fine, but they're also having to worry about layoffs or getting people home and being effective and say, I mean, everybody has stress during this time right now, and if we could strip the politics out of it and just understand that we're all under pressure, we can do a lot better. But for me, there's always opportunity, and I don't mean in a way of taking advantage of people or a bad situation. I mean, stuff happens. Who knows? You and I meet today, and maybe that leads to something really cool.
I think it will.
And maybe that leads to you and Kiana starting this friend. I mean, like if nothing comes of this other than some really awesome content and some connections, hey, there's a positive. So you never know. I mean, you and I very much are aligned that way without knowing each other. I want to ask you, and I love this question. for people that have had the type of success that you have, because with that success comes a lot of recognition, a lot of awards, and most people, when they've been successful like you are, there's the humility of saying, look, it's an honor. These are just they're awards, and I appreciate. I'm putting words in your mouth, but
you're right.
But I mean, I know, I get that. But when you start throwing accomplishments like Kansas City Business Hall of Fame, that's an award, an acknowledgement that lives forever. So I'll at least start there. To be a member of the Kansas City Business Hall of Fame, what does that mean, or what did it mean in the moment when you found out?
Man, I tell you what, it meant so much. I can't. There's another thing. I can't put it into words. Look at me, a person that can always speak I can't speak. It really that's a big one. That's a big one, and I think about it sometimes, and it moves me so much that I kind of tear up a little bit, because I mean, I've had a lot, like you said, I've had a lot of awards, and it's fabulous. I love them. Bring them on. I want more. But that was one that's, man, it was really cool, and it meant a ton at the time, but it means more as time goes on. You look back at your life and realize what you've done, and that's something that I will have forever. It's pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That was the one I wanted to ask you about. I mean, we could go down the list, but to me, anytime you see the words Hall of Fame in whatever it is, that's a big deal. I mean, that's so.
Thank you.
And so congrats on obviously all of that, and it's all well earned. I think the other really important thing too here with all of your success and dealerships and all that is that you have given back so much to the community, and I sort of joked before that there were too many to list for my researcher on the sheet, but Becky Wilson asked, do you have any rides for charity coming up? I think that's one of the cool things and the ability that you have to do is take this love and this passion, because really, and again, I'm saying this as someone that hasn't ridden a bike, but who owns a Harley and doesn't love it, right? It's like in my business, maybe, I don't know. In my business, like, who is on TV as a baseball broadcaster saying, oh, this really sucks? Nobody. Like, you have bad days, and if you're thinking that way truly, you need to get out of it, because someone pays us in normal years to travel the country on charter planes and not pay to get into games, but be paid to tell people about it. Like, I mean, it's the greatest thing ever. So you have this ability to take all of these customers, and not even all your customers, and beyond, of these men and women that absolutely have this passion for Harleys and bikes, and turn it into charitable. So tell me about, one, the power of that, and two, to Becky's question, what's coming up?
Okay, I love to give back. I give back a lot through charity rides. I give back a lot through writing checks or donating stuff. I believe in the karma king. What goes around comes around. And so I figure as long as I'm giving to other people, if I ever need help, people will be there for me. So that's why I do that. And as far as stuff coming up, here's a crazy thing, man. You can't have more than 100 people at an event, and I can easily bring in more than 100 people in an event. So it's just tough. I've had to cancel many charity rides. We've recently had a ride for City Union Mission and a ride for Camp Quality, a children's camp. It was really good, and it was very, very well attended. It was a week before they said 100 people was the max. But City Union Mission has a place in my heart. I love anything that has to do with first responders or military or animals. People who cannot help themselves, which is all charities actually. When I say stuff like that, it's kind of silly. But I would rather, I don't know. I could go on forever. I'm not even going to talk about everything I love, but what I do instead of charity rides, I just write checks. as much as I can.
Yeah, sure.
Don't go throwing me a bunch of emails about writing me a check, but that's what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, it's part of giving back for sure. And a couple of things before we wrap up. The one thing I wanted to ask you, just from a business standpoint, is how much everything has changed for you as a business owner in the last 4 months. The good news through all of this is getting out and riding has got to be one of the safer things to do right now. You're outside. Certainly no issue with 6 foot distance. Again,
Exactly.
I'll get back to what I've said. We need to take the politics out of this. I just want people to be safe. And you know what? I don't know. Just like Hunter Dozier with the Royals yesterday, suddenly we find out he tested positive. He didn't expect to test positive. So we don't know what's going to happen, but I think we can all at least agree that we want people to be safe and healthy and we want to get back to normal. But I've got to think that being on a bike and riding a bike is maybe more freedom than ever right now.
Oh, absolutely. It is the best social distancing because it's natural. You're wearing gloves, you're wearing a face mask, and you are very obviously more than 6 feet away from somebody else. It's fabulous. But also, it is an amazing way to escape the stuff that's going on right now. You know, just like you said, I mean, just forget about politics, turn the TV off, hop on your motorcycle, and go for a ride. So it's wonderful. I also own Shawnee Cycle Plaza in Shawnee, Kansas, and we sell side-by-sides and ATVs and dirt bikes out there. And that business has gone through the roof, just like bicycles. It's just gone through the roof because it's something that you can do with your family. And the Harley Davidsons have expanded lately also because of the togetherness. You and your spouse can get on a bike and go ride, and it's fabulous. You know, the women at first they're like, I'm not so sure about this, but once they get on the back, they realize that the guy can't get away from them. I mean, you're together. There's all togetherness when you're on the motorcycle. So it's just get on a bike and ride.
No, it sounds amazing. And so, as we wrap it up, 2 last questions. One, what do you still want to accomplish from a business standpoint when you've done as much as you have and you've been this successful for 20 plus years? What's on the bucket list from a business standpoint?
Well, a girlfriend and I are putting together a charity that will help out other charities. And I can't really go into exactly what it's all about, but it's going to be pretty cool, and it's going to be all surrounded around motorcycles and something that you can give to charities every single time you get on your motorcycle. You don't have to go to a specific ride to go do it. And that's huge, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. I want to have the IFRD, which is the International Female Ride Day. It's one day a year in May that female riders from all over the country get together wherever they live and go for a ride. I want that to be right here. So we're working on making the largest ever. And so it just things that just go pow, impact the world, because I'm Gail. I've got the Gails Harley Davidson thing going on. I'm good with that. Now it's time to impact in a bigger way. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to be leaning on you a little bit, Joel, for help with all that.
I was going to tell you, you know how to get a hold of me now. And
yes, I do.
So you have the phone number. You know how to, so let me help for sure, and let me use my voice to be able to help whatever causes are going on. I like to ask some of my guests. It's one of my favorite questions. Hint, hint, it might be a little project book that I'm working on right now, but small ball in baseball terms, the singles, the bunts, the sacrifices, everybody wants to hit the home run, right? But sometimes it's all those little things that add up to the home run or the grand slam. In your world as a businesswoman, what is small ball to you? What are the little things that ultimately lead to that big success?
I can tell you that there is nothing that makes me feel better than when a young person, a young person comes to me and says, Wow, it is so great to meet you. Kiana, oh my gosh, that statement she made will be with me for the rest of the month, for the rest of the year. I mean, I'm just maybe for the rest of my life I'll be thinking about her. That statements like that, when I can make a difference in people's lives, that's what matters, and that's why I'm here. I just that's the small little things like that. That's big. You can't get any better than that.
No, I totally agree. And you know what ends up happening with all of that too? You end up getting something back too. You just do, and you learn.
Yes.
Just because we're older and we have had more experience and learned so much. I always say all the time when here we go, the conversation's expanding, which is great. But I always feel like when I talk to different people in the workforce and they talk about the generational gaps and those darn millennials and all that, and I'm like, well, why can't I learn from them too? I mean, the world changes, and so from Kiana,
Absolutely.
I have really learned a lot about the world of racial injustice and what is going on, and she has helped me see things that I didn't see before, and hopefully in turn I've helped her see things that she didn't see before. And so, when you can meet people like that, so at the minimum, and by the way, this is your last word for the day, Kiana. So
I love it.
I think we found a nice little match here of two power women from different generations, and so I'm really excited for you guys. Let's look at that. I'm excited about that. I'm going to step out of here at some point and let you two do your thing. Okay, listen. Last thing. This is just a lighthearted, fun one. After I hit all that deep stuff, the coolest or most fun, memorable ride that you've had? Like, have you gone to a crazy, faraway place or something I know you've done a lot, but this might be asking about favorite bike or favorite kid or something like that too, but what's the coolest ride you've had?
Oh man, I've ridden to a lot of places. When I rode all the way down to the tip of Key West, was really cool to do that. But I would say that the most memorable was not as far as that. It was down to Amarillo, Texas and back on a miniature hard butt ride. I went down there and rode back, and there were so many stories along the way because you had to do it I did it in 30 hours. Barely time to sleep. You got down there, barely slept and come home, and I was on my way home, and I was on interstate, and I got pulled over for going 101. And then the police officer, he said, did you know how fast you were going? I said, no, I really don't, because this is really the fault of the state of Texas for making their highway resemble a drag strip. So I can't pay attention when I'm going that fast. I can't pay attention to my speed. I mean, and so he just laughed, and he gave me a warning instead of taking me to jail, because really going that fast is shame on me. I should have gone to jail. But I will never forget that. It was just a memorable moment. But I don't know. I've got so many amazing memories.
We could have done a full show just on each of those rides. Maybe that's
Sturgis. There's a show. Yes.
2 weeks, right?
Yes. Heading up there on the 4th.
Well, enjoy that. I'll be back to baseball, hopefully still staying in baseball and everybody healthy. So I'll certainly be thinking about you. I'll give Becky the last word, who just says quite simply, thank you for letting us feel the power. And
I love you, Becky.
Yeah, Becky's awesome, and I appreciate Becky connecting us here today too. It's great to finally meet you and your energy. Put aside all of the success in business and the passion for Harleys, but just your energy as a giving person really, really is. I could feel it, in this virtual world that we're living in. So again, not that Gail's Harley Davidson needs it, but it never hurts. GailsHarleyDavidson.com, and certainly
I need it.
We always need it, right?
Yes.
So, just because the brand is amazing.
Thank you.
Can definitely check that out. So, Gail, thanks so much for spending the time. Thanks for rolling with me. Go ice that arm right now. I apologize for the technical difficulties. When that arm is sore, when you're riding into work tomorrow, you're gonna be like, "Damn it, that was that Joel Goldberg guy."
Right?
But hopefully the arm exercise was worth it because I really enjoyed the conversation.
It was fantastic. Thanks, Joel. I'm really happy that we got to know each other.
Likewise, we'll continue that discussion for sure. And so there we go. I'm still learning how to switch this thing. I'm glad that I'm back to work, and I have a director and technical director that do all these things because clearly I shouldn't be doing all of them. But this was a lot of fun. Great to be able to visit with Gail Worth, aka Gail Harley chick. Also appreciate the support as always. To Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you, and so thrilled to be here in the KCAV studios, Kansas City Audio Visual. They can take care of all of your needs, small and large, any size office. That is what they specialize in. Thanks for watching another edition of Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you. I can't believe it. I'm finally saying this. Tomorrow, on July 24th, is opening day for Major League Baseball. Actually, some games open today. But in the Royals world, my world, most of our worlds, it's tomorrow. So I'll have Rex Hudler on. We'll have the show tomorrow morning at 9. Have Royals baseball tomorrow night from Cleveland, even though we'll be here. I'm excited about it. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe, great rest of your Thursday or whenever you're watching this. And I'll see you again soon on Rounding the Bases Live.